In the gleaming, nauseatingly symmetrical council chamber of the interstellar assembly of civilized species, or, as the humans would eventually call it, the cosmic DMV, 216 delegates from every corner of the galaxy gathered. To debate the pressing issue of the millennium, Earth had declined first contact, not with hostility, not even with confusion. They just didn't care. The rejection came via a grainy voicemail from someone who identified themselves only as Steve, Assistant Regional Manager of Planetary Vibes, stating in a tone best described as mid-coffee sip, "Hey, thanks for the outreach or whatever, but we're kind of busy right now. Leave a message or don't. It's cool either way." The message ended with the unmistakable sound of someone tripping over a cat and yelling, "Gerald, you absolute menace," before abruptly cutting off. Chairman Val, a tall, regal creature whose species had genetically evolved to reflect their stress through skin color, had been stuck in a blotchy shade of chartreuse for 3 days straight. He sat at the helm of the chamber, his four eyes twitching independently as he scrolled through yet another intercepted Earth transmission. This one, a TikTok of a human in a horse mask explaining quantum theory using only interpretive dance and pizza metaphors. "They can't possibly be serious," muttered Envoy Dree, who at the moment was trembling so violently their gelatinous form was bubbling audibly. "This is a strategic feint, it must be. A psychological warfare tactic, perhaps. Phlox, run, a counter-analysis." Ambassador Phlox, representing the Synapse Conflux, a hyper-intelligent AI collective, briefly flickered into a screen of static before mumbling, "Error 407, logic not found." This was the third system crash since the humans had responded to a peace offer with an animated image of a yellow sponge under a rainbow, whispering, "I'm a head out." Analyst Nova, a plasma-based life form currently coalescing into the shape of a haunted duck, trembled with theoretical fear. "We've consulted their data streams. Half their species believes we're a simulation. The other half thinks we're part of a viral marketing campaign for snack cakes." Varl slammed a tendril down on his ceremonial gavel pad, which squeaked loudly and then displayed the message, "Are you sure you want to declare an emergency?" In 16 galactic dialects. "This is an unprecedented breach of interstellar protocol," he hissed, his skin flashing dangerously close to taupe, the color of mild corporate despair. We followed the guidelines. We transmitted the standard 400-page Welcome to Galactic Society document. We embedded the subliminal friendliness tones. We even sent the ceremonial crystal-encoded greetings cube. "They used it as a coaster," Phlox said flatly, projecting a photo of a stained coffee ring atop the cube, captioned, "Shiny rock makes good vibe pad." A long, uncomfortable silence followed, broken only by the Mistborn Enclave's ambassador, who politely evaporated in what was later classified as an overwhelming etiquette-related stress event. "We must escalate," declared Val. "Begin the Outreach Recovery Initiative. Launch Mission Passive-Aggressive." Dree shivered. "You don't mean the full Protocol 14, the pamphlets?" "Yes," Val said grimly, "and the welcome jingle." Within a solar hour, Earth received a golden data packet containing holographic brochures, a musical welcome montage featuring 43 different species dancing awkwardly to a xylophone-based anthem, and a personalized message inviting humanity to the stars. Earth's response? A screenshot of the transmission overlaid with a caption, "Cool UFO, bro. We rate it 7.5 by 10 for effort. Needed more saxophone." The caption was accompanied by a looping video of a man in gym shorts breakdancing on a Roomba, labeled "Earth's Ambassador to the Stars," probably. Val collapsed into his hover chair, mumbling something about the decline of civilization and requesting a double vapor water with anti-anxiety electrolytes. Phlox attempted another data infiltration to retrieve Earth's strategic plans, but was rerouted to a website selling novelty socks, and had his logic core briefly hijacked by an autoplay ad titled 10 Ways to Hack Galactic Diplomacy Using Only a Toaster and Regret. Somewhere, deep in a dormant Earth shopping mall repurposed as a military hub, a group of teenagers was live-streaming themselves, beta-testing Space Fleet software, while arguing about which alien race had the best aesthetic. They had accidentally triggered the IACS's emergency communications frequency with a Twitch command called Dance Party 99. Back in the council chamber, the galaxy's most dignified minds sat frozen in the polite horror of beings who had spent millennia perfecting protocol, only to be completely undone by a civilization that barely acknowledged its existence. "They are not rejecting us," Nova said finally, her voice barely a ripple of static. "They just genuinely don't care." A slow, collective gasp rippled through the chamber. The concept was so foreign, so utterly blasphemous, that even the diplomatic translator bot needed a reboot to process it. Varl clutched his translator badge and whispered, "But what if indifference is their weapon?" Dree began to hyperventilate, dissolving momentarily into a puddle of self-soothing slime. Phlox flashed a single text across their monitor face, "Initiating existential panic protocol," and Earth went back to brunch. The interstellar assembly of civilized species was in absolute shambles. Not the fun kind of shambles, like when a diplomatic banquet accidentally serves sentient soup, but the existential kind, the kind with emergency subcommittees, over-caffeinated, analysts and spontaneous resignations by species that technically didn't even have jobs. Operation Passive-Aggressive had failed catastrophically. Earth had not only ignored the ceremonial welcome jingle, but had auto-tuned it into a remix that hit number 3 on their Galactic Bops playlist, right between a frog-based EDM artist and something called Beats by Orb. In the aftermath, the IACS escalated their outreach to Level Omega Pink, a designation reserved only for uncontacted rogue planets or extremely rude planets that keep pretending they didn't hear the doorbell. Every member civilization was now on edge, their finest diplomats fraying under the sheer weight of Earth's steady stream of weirdness. One response from the humans had been a meme, a zoomed-in photo of a confused cat staring at a space shuttle, with the caption, "You guys have a permit for that, for..." Chairman Varl, now permanently stained in a shade known as bureaucratic beige, was caught muttering to himself during a press holocaust, "We are being outmaneuvered by a species that cannot agree on how to pronounce GIF." Envoy Dree had developed a chronic ripple, pulsing nervously every time someone said the word Earth, and Ambassador Phlox had updated their internal firewall to block all human-related input after being exposed to a video compilation of failed rocket landings, one of which had been labeled Space Yeet Fail 14, and yet they persisted. A new plan was drafted by the Emergency Council on Diplomatic Irritation. This time, it would be personal. The IACS would send a delegation to Earth. A carefully curated team of their most adaptable representatives, Dree, Phlox, and a temporary cultural liaison from the Mistborn Enclave, who reconstituted just long enough to join the mission. Their ship, the glorious accordance of united principles, descended into Earth's atmosphere with the grace and dignity of a committee that once spent a decade deciding whether or not to capitalize the word greetings. They landed discreetly, cloaked in an invisibility field, calibrated to avoid attention, only to have the entire thing blown instantly when a drone enthusiast caught the ship on camera and uploaded it with the title, "Real UFO Sighting, Not Clickbait." Gone mild. Within hours, the IACS team was trending, not for making contact, not for the grandeur of their arrival, but because a bystander had captured a brief moment when Ambassador Phlox's exterior monitor glitched and displayed a buffering wheel during a live transmission. The comments section dubbed them Spinny Boy. Upon stepping onto Earth's surface, more specifically a strip mall parking lot in New Jersey, the diplomatic team was met not with military resistance or academic curiosity, but a man selling knockoff hoverboards and a child asking if they were a fortnight's skin. Despite this, They pressed on, determined to schedule an official first contact. They transmitted the standard introductory hologram, which Earth responded to by opening a group chat titled Galactic Bois and adding the delegation to it. The first message was a gif of a llama in a spacesuit dancing. Phlox blue-screened. Dree attempted to initiate handshake protocol with the first human who would engage, a barista named Kenny, who took one look at the glistening gelatinous appendage and handed over a caramel macchiato with an, "Are you good, bro?" The entire mission was documented by a YouTuber named LexiNova69, who live-streamed the interaction while reviewing the alien fashion choices, rating Phlox a solid 8 out of 10 for mysterious techno-cube chic, but docking points from Dree. For Squid and Laundry Day energy, the IACS team requested an emergency session with Earth's planetary leadership. They were directed via automated call center to a government liaison who turned out to be on leave until Thursday and had set their voicemail to, "Hey, if this is about aliens, just press 1 and vibe." Desperate, the team tried to contact Earth's UN representative, who sent back a smiley face emoji and the phrase, "Lol, we don't even talk to each other half the time." With every attempt, the mission slipped further into absurdity. The humans weren't dismissive out of malice. They were just not interested or too busy, or distracted by the launch of a new streaming series about vampire lawyers in space. Even Phlox, now patched with a sarcasm detection module, began to falter under the pressure. They'd attempted to explain the significance of the IACS's protocols, only to be interrupted by a teenager offering them a hit of this totally legal vape, my guy. Dree was found crying softly in a puddle near a food truck after someone called them Drippy McBlobby. Their translator had tried to contextualize the nickname as a compliment and exploded. Meanwhile, Earth's media continued to churn out content. Late-night talk shows joked about the Galactic HOA trying to collect dues, while conspiracy podcasts debated whether the IACS delegation was part of a larger alien MLM scheme. One influencer launched a fashion line inspired by alien illness, and another taught their Pomeranian to bark the phrase, "Welcome to Earth," in a tinny robot voice. Somehow this was interpreted as a formal rejection of galactic etiquette. The final straw came during a formal broadcast meant to explain the benefits of joining the IACS, interstellar trade, shared knowledge, cosmic enlightenment, which Earth interrupted with a commercial for pizza-scented body spray. Val, watching from the council chamber, slumped in his hover throne, his ceremonial robe covered in diplomatic tear-absorbing patches. "They are not mocking us," he whispered, dead-eyed. "They are just this way." The delegation limped back to their ship, defeated not by war, not by resistance, but by the sheer gravitational pull of Earth's indifference. As the glorious accordance lifted off, someone from a rooftop shouted, "Yo, don't forget to subscribe." The transmission was recorded and archived in IACS records under the category Unknown Customary Farewell, possibly ritualistic. Back in orbit, Dree curled into themselves, mumbling about reapplying for a position on the diplomacy subcommittee for easily offended nebulae. Phlox downloaded a human meditation app titled Calm Down, Space Nerd, and tried to reconcile their processor with the concept of vibes. Nova updated her report to include a warning. They are not predictable, they are not hostile, they are vibing, and there is no known protocol for vibes. The council called an emergency session. The words irreparable cultural disconnect and complete procedural collapse were floated. Val stared into the distance, blinking all 4 eyes in an uneven rhythm. "What if they're not mocking us because we're weak?" he said quietly, "but because they think we're boring." A silence fell across the chamber that would later be classified as historically traumatic. And Earth ordered another round of brunch and wondered why that weird Zoom invite from Val_assembly_chair at the rate galactic.org.sp kept going to spam. The interstellar assembly of civilized species was unraveling faster than an Angora sweater in a jet engine. The official mood within the council chamber had shifted from dignified exasperation to full-blown bureaucratic nihilism. Protocol binders lay scattered like fallen leaves on the marble floors. Delegates muttered outdated diplomatic rights to themselves like lost monks at a broken copy machine, and Chairman Varl, formerly a symbol of galactic composure, was found chewing nervously on a regulation stress crystal while mumbling, "We could have contacted the lava people, but no, Earth had quirky potential." The delegation's failed mission to Earth was now being broadcast on every internal IACS network, complete with annotations, redactions, and an emergency commentary track from the Department of Public Intergalactic Relations. Viewership ratings were through the roof, not because anyone was eager to learn, but because seeing flocks get pelted with a quesadilla by an over-enthusiastic street performer was now required for diplomatic certification. Across member species, panic had shifted to something far more dangerous: introspection. The synapse conflux hive mind had developed an emergent subroutine called disappointment with self, which had quickly gone viral and forced a system-wide reboot. The Mistborn Enclave officially adopted the policy of evaporating at even the suggestion of human contact, and the Council's Galactic Cultural Preservation Committee was currently debating whether humanity's TikTok dance called the Wormhole Wiggle violated space-time decorum. Meanwhile, Earth's influence, unintentional and completely unregulated, was metastasizing. Their memes had infiltrated secure galactic forums, their sarcastic phrasing was showing up in diplomatic transcripts. "This meeting could have been a galactic email," said one ambassador mid-session, and worst of all, the IACS anthem had been remixed by an Earth DJ into a bass-heavy dance track now being played at orbital nightclubs across the Tri-Spiral Confederacy. No civilization had ever been this disrespected without even trying. The idea that humans didn't see them as superior, threatening, or even interesting had caused a psychic rupture so wide that the Vexaria Accord, formerly the most spiritually centered species in the galaxy, declared an emergency screaming into the void retreat with optional primal telepathy. Analyst Nova, now the reluctant authority on all things Earth, had become clinically obsessed. She had built an entire conspiracy wall made of quantum filaments, connected dots with glow sticks from a rave, and hosted a wildly popular internal podcast called "Is Earth Gaslighting the Galaxy?" In episode 7, she argued, without irony, that human indifference might be an advanced form of social warfare. "They make us feel like we need them," she whispered, voice crackling through static. "What if that is the war?" Chairman Varl summoned another emergency session, this time without the usual gongs, incense and robe-floating ceremony. He sat slumped in his hover throne, now permanently stained in a color officially designated as crisis beige. With a sigh deeper than a black hole's awkward family dinner, he addressed the chamber. "They don't hate us, they don't love us, they don't even notice us, and it's tearing our prestige apart." He paused, scanning the solemn faces of 100 species, including a few that didn't technically have faces. "We are not just losing diplomatic ground. We are losing relevance." The silence that followed was broken only by a nervous cough from Dree, who was hiding behind a potted bioluminescent shrub and softly muttering pages of the Universal Protocol Manual like incantations. Phlox, patched up and now wearing a hoodie with 404 Diplomacy Not Found written across the front, pinged the room. "I propose a new strategy. Full cultural immersion. If we cannot get them to meet us in formality, we must meet them in absurdity." The chamber gasped. One delegate actually fainted, their stiff exoskeleton making a loud dong as they hit the floor. "You mean," hissed the representative from the Crystal Synod, "to abandon protocol?" "To bend it," Phlox clarified. "To approach humanity not as saviors, mentors, or galactic guides, but as peers, as vibers." There were protests, of course. Debates, long and boring, interrupted only when someone tried to define what a vibe even was, and ended up in a recursive semantic loop that crashed a minor linguistic AI. But eventually, by a margin of 2 votes and 1 indecisive burp, from a sentient fog, the council agreed. A new delegation would be formed, not of diplomats, but of infiltrators, cultural infiltrators, not spies in the traditional sense, but ambassadors of chaos. They would blend in, learn Earth's ways, understand their irreverence, and try to make contact not through solemnity, but through snacks, sarcasm, and sitcom references. Nova assembled the team. Phlox, still glitchy but determined. Dree, medicated and heavily bubble-wrapped, a new recruit from the exotheatric order named Plib, who specialized in emotional mimicry and bad accents. They were assigned Earth. Personas, given loose-fitting casual wear, taught to pronounce dude with the correct tonal frequency, and dropped unceremoniously into downtown Los Angeles under cover of Comic-Con. The mission was chaos wrapped in fandom. Within minutes, Plib was mistaken for a method actor playing a sentient mushroom. Phlox was offered a record deal by someone named DJ Cosmic Kush, and Dree, attempting small talk with a man in a Chewbacca suit, had a full protocol meltdown and began chanting "Peace is a handshake with the soul," while handing out laminated galactic apology coupons. But somehow, impossibly, they began to integrate. No one questioned their weirdness, because on Earth, weirdness was normal. Phlox went viral for a monologue about interstellar peace delivered in a vape shop. Dree was invited onto a podcast about intergalactic aromatherapy. Plib began doing stand-up comedy at open mic nights under the name Mushroom Jerry and was hailed as a groundbreaking surrealist post-species performance artist. And all of it was being watched by the IACS with unblinking horror and awe. What started as chaos had become connection. Unintended, unplanned, but real. Earth wasn't resisting contact. They were filtering it. Through humor, through noise, through randomness. They had no protocol because they lived in entropy. And they liked it that way. Somewhere in the crowd at one of Plib's shows, a human leaned over to their friend and said, "Yo, you think this guy's actually from space?" And the friend, sipping a novelty cocktail called Plutonium Punch, replied, "If he is, we better not screw it up. This is the funniest alien we've had since that Elon guy." Back in the council chamber, Nova stared at the screen, paused the footage, and turned slowly to Val. "They are not mocking us," she said. "They're inviting us. We just didn't know how to RSVP." Val blinked 4 times, slowly. "Then what happens when we finally accept the invitation?" Nova smiled. "We crash the party." The day Sam Gray walked into the council chamber of the Interstellar Assembly of Civilized Species, it was not marked by fanfare, prophecy, or even mild anticipation, mostly because the assembly didn't know he was coming. He didn't beam down in a glowing pod or announce himself with a glorious transmission. He just showed up, walked right in. Past the celestial gates, through the security perimeter, past the biometric scanners, all of which had apparently been set to a default password of admin93, a flaw nobody ever thought to exploit because every civilization in the galaxy assumed passwords were sacred social contracts, not suggestions. Sam, wearing joggers, a faded hoodie that read "NASA need another space adventure," and carrying a cup of coffee that was, according to later forensics, 70% sugar, sauntered through the chamber doors, mid-session, paused, looked around at the 216 assembled representatives of Galactic Order, and took a long, slow sip. "Yo," he said, like he'd just entered the wrong meeting room at a co-working space. The entire council froze. Chairman Val, who at this point had become a mottled spectrum of panic hues and was being monitored by 3 emotional support crustaceans, managed to rasp, "Identify yourself, intruder, before we—" "Sam Gray," he interrupted, raising one hand in a lazy wave. "Earth, technically assistant vice intern to the unofficial oversight committee of Galactic Vibes. Also, I fixed your firewall. It was, a lot." Phlox's processor shorted momentarily and displayed the word "human exi" In blinking neon, Dree made a noise like a flute melting. Blib, who had followed Sam in carrying a bag of Earth snacks and dressed entirely in clothing featuring cartoon pickles, whispered, "This is the Vibe Lord." Sam strolled up to the center podium, bypassing all formalities, stepped over a floating chair and tapped the microphone. "Is this on? Cool. So here's the thing, you guys have been trying so hard to get us to care. First contact, protocols, welcome bundles, ceremonial cubes. Great effort, seriously. 10 out of 10 on commitment. But here's the catch. Earth isn't rejecting you. We just needed to know if you could handle us." The room collectively tilted. 1,000 eyes, sensors, and gas-based sentience vectors stared in unison. Varl croaked, "What do you mean?" Sam took another sip. "I mean, we were never going to show up all serious and noble. That's not how we do things. You thought you were evaluating us, but buddy, we've been evaluating you. Every message, every urgent galactic decree, every time you referred to us as a primitive emergent species, we watched, we waited, and we laughed. Because here's the truth. You built a galaxy that runs on ceremony, decorum, and extremely polite passive aggression. We run on memes, brunch, and collective anxiety. You had your way. It was fine. Now it's our turn." Somewhere in the back, a gas-based delegate screamed and disappeared. Phlox whispered, "He's reversing the hierarchy." Nova, watching the live stream from the observation deck, furiously took notes under the heading, "Human Diplomatic Methodology, Weaponized Casualness." Sam continued, casually pacing the central stage like a stand-up comic at a particularly strange TED Talk. "You guys love power, titles, procedures. You have entire species dedicated to the proper way to nod at each other. But humans, we can barely remember where we parked. We don't need a Galactic Council telling us how to do things. We need a Wi-Fi password and a group chat." He gestured broadly, sloshing a bit of his coffee. "You wanted us to prove we were ready for the stars, and we did. Not with lasers, not with treaties, with patience, by ignoring you until your protocol collapsed in on itself like a souffle made of anxiety." Varl slumped in his chair, which had activated a panic recline feature last used during the declaration of the Second Nebula Accord. "Then, what is it you want?" Sam grinned. "A few things. 1. Biannual casual dress codes. Nobody should be expected to govern an interstellar alliance in full ceremonial robes. 2. Get rid of the welcome jingle. It's haunting. 3. Ditch the Sacred Council protocols and replace them with something more flexible, like, I don't know, improv games or vibes-based decision matrices. And 4, this one's big. We want you to start taking us seriously by not taking yourselves so seriously." He paused, then took the final sip of his coffee and set the cup gently on Varl's. "Personal dice. Oh, and the sacred flame of eternal diplomacy. It's running on a power strip that was sparking. We fixed that, too." He looked around. "You're welcome." The chamber was silent. For a full 3 minutes, the only sound was the of atmospheric controls, and one delegate from the slime horizon muttering vibes-based matrices in existential horror. And then Varl stood, robes slightly disheveled, stress hues dimmed to something approaching tired mauve. "You redefined diplomacy," he said, voice trembling, with sarcasm. Sam shrugged. "And snacks. Don't forget the snacks." Phlox pinged a file. "Motion to accept Earth as full members of the IACS under revised protocols of casual cohesion and emotional adaptability." Dree blinked once, slowly. Seconded, with a cautious ripple. The vote passed unanimously, except for one representative who was busy uploading Sam's speech to their species' social network with the caption, "This dude just fixed politics?" Over the next cycles, everything changed. The council adopted relaxed session structures. Icebreakers were introduced. Casual Friday became chaotic Thursday. Galactic transmission started including emojis. One species invented cosmic brunch, a diplomatic event that involved mimosas and interdimensional waffles. The galaxy did not collapse. It got weird, but it worked. Humanity became the reluctant, chaotic big sibling of the galaxy, unrefined, unpredictable, but honest. The fear the IACS once had, that humans might be too wild to control, was replaced by a deeper, more disturbing truth. Humans were never trying to be controlled. They just wanted to be accepted as is, and they were. As for Sam, he returned to Earth with zero ceremony, bought a new hoodie, and spent the next week teaching a sentient light being how to roll its eyes. The new IACS welcome packet included stress toys, a Spotify playlist curated by Nova called Diplomacy But Make It Slap, and a note that read, "Welcome to the galaxy. Please take your seat or don't. We're chill like that." And somewhere, far above, as the stars blinked in cosmic bemusement, a lone satellite named Echo 8 played a looped message across space. "You're doing great. We believe in you."